All right. Hello. This is Spilling the Loyalty. Spilling the Loyalty is a Digitas podcast, and I'm co-host Melissa Berger, Chief Solutions Officer at Digitas. I'm normally joined by our new co-host, Amy Lanzi, the CEO. However, today we have a very special co-host and now dear and close friend of mine, Davey Rennie, who is going to be helping to lead this episode. I was lucky enough to spend some time down in Australia last year, and I'm thrilled that this has come full circle in Cannes. Welcome, Davey.
Thank you for having us. How good's this?
Amazing.
Spotify at the Festival of Creativity, joined by two amazing panelists who I just loved spending time with.
Me too. Would you like to introduce our very special guest as well?
Well, I'll let Mary introduce herself.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Mary Vrancic. I'm from McDonald's, and I am the newest member of Macca, so McDonald's Australia. So working in marketing, overseeing quite a few things out there.
Incredible. Is this your first Cannes?
This is my first Cannes.
What have you seen so far? How are you feeling? Day, I would argue 49, but it's really only day 2.
It is only day 2. The content's been fantastic. The variety has been, the world of creativity just knows no bounds. And then I've had a couple very paradoxical speakers. Seeing Louis in Paris, that was unexpected, very unexpected and very insightful. So really good so far.
Amazing.
It's all about the unexpected ones, right?
Yeah.
You build the big ones up and you're like really excited to see them, and then you stumble into one, you're like, oh.
That's how I was with Serena this morning.
How was she?
I mean, talk about purposeful and intention. It was, health and hygiene. It was fantastic.
I love that
amazing piece on health, like the volume of females at the front line of healthcare, but the number of founders in healthcare technology being like 2% females.
It was pretty wild. I was surprised to learn that it's not that solutions don't exist, it's that they're underfunded.
Yeah.
So that was very educational for me, which you just feel very privileged in the first world problems that we have day to day, right?
Truly. But I think to your point about you can find creativity anywhere, I think Serena is such a good example of the creativity she has in her sport, in her life, in her business ventures, and what she supports. So it's interesting because in the past, that might not have been someone that came and spoke at Cannes. So I really love to see that they're bringing, again, female athletes and females who are really trying to push for better health and wellness for the females in general. So amazing.
So good.
Yeah. I know it's hard to not overschedule yourself here as well. So hopefully you're finding some time. We just talked a little bit about some shopping. So it's hard to come to the French Riviera and not do any shopping, correct?
Well, I just have to give Davey and the Aussies credit. I don't know how they do this. This is my first time with, I think, real jet lag. 30 hours door to door.
Hours.
So it's definitely an adjustment.
Well, that's
a good one.
That's a great transition. I wanted to hear a little bit about your story. And, you and I, realized earlier we both spent time studying abroad in Australia. Obviously, that's really spoke to you. So talk to me a little bit about your experience, going from Chicago, the home base, down to Sydney.
I mean, there's definitely culture shock, sports alone. So the team hears me talk about that quite a lot, but I'm a massive fan of Aussie sports culture. I love sports in general. Serena was fun just in that way alone. I'm really lucky. I had an international internship with McDonald's, I think the first one 16 years ago. So I came out, as we all do when we're in our early 20s. We think we know everything, especially as Americans. I'll own it.
What about the Scottish?
Just invented everything and gave it.
Oh, that's right. No, but to me, it was actually a life lesson, right? I came out and I said, besides the opportunity with McDonald's, I mean, I was a Midwest girl. I grew up steak and potatoes. It was pretty basic life for me. And I said, I'm going to try everything once and kind of learn what I love. But for me, like, I thought that I knew the brand inside and out, right? There's not much we get to claim as Americans that people love across the world. That's probably more relevant right now than ever. But to see something that, you've grown up with, you have all these core memories of, and then you walk into a Macca's and you see this brand McCafe exist in a very different way. It was born in Australia, right? That's where it came from. To see this coffee culture, I mean, the fact that I can have an almond chai latte with like every day, that's normalcy, is pretty fantastic. And back then I was ordering a panini with it. So I didn't know that existed. So listen, on both fronts, it really helped me go after, and I know we talked about this earlier, but having that openness and that willingness. And I've always been very curious. I love to learn. So applying both of those things as that lesson, again, not just in my professional career, but in life, has been pretty important. So big impact there coming out from the Aussies.
Do you see any synergies between the markets as well?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's interesting because when you take it down to its core, there's two words that are always going to be on the tip of consumers' tongues, no matter where you are in the world, and it's value and convenience. Now, how value shows up, what convenience looks like, what customer expectations are across both of those elements. I mean, that's us, our DNA, our core. It's fascinating. So in the world of like coffee is probably the best example where the needs from a U.S. consumer look very different, and what they expect in terms of that timeliness and that price point, those are really important. Whereas you come out to Australia and it's about this total experience, and the coffee is premium. And if you lose that taste and quality and you don't deliver on that, it doesn't matter if you've tried to lean in with an aggressive price point. So definitely some big differences, but the synergies are interesting too. It's almost, I constantly, I was telling folks about this earlier, I feel like I'm unlearning and then relearning, but then there's core pieces of our brand that you just, they never leave you in the conversation.
Yeah. It's a joyful brand, right?
Oh, it's the best. And sometimes we have to remind ourselves how much fun our jobs are. It's burgers and french fries.
And you and I had that chat when you came down to help us, and you're a big McDonald's fan.
I am. I've, grew up like most of us did. That was such a treat to get. And, you looked forward to it. Every Wednesday, my mother bribed me to go to Hebrew school by saying that I could have McDonald's afterward. As, when you're 12 learning Hebrew, you go sideways. And so it was really interesting because I was always like the special treat. And it's something you look forward to.
Yeah.
And there's just very distinct memory. I know exactly where the McDonald's is, so it's like these memories are so impactful. So working on this business, and my husband's family is also a big McDonald's family. So it's been wonderful, and it is so fun.
Well, now
McDonald's
I have
like
to ask, what's the go-to order?
Well, it depends on the day. I I love my quarter pounder with cheese, but hard to stay away from the nuggets. Really hard. So he gets a double, I get a single. We share nuggets, and it's brilliant. We love it. It's our go-to.
Did you try the nether sauce with our Minecraft campaign?
Oh my!
Of course I did.
It was.
Did you tip it into the
glorious.
box? Shake it?
I put it on everything.
That's unreal.
All right. Well, now I clearly
You have to.
need to.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I love it again. Like, let's talk about that. The brilliant partnerships that McDonald's does. So that campaign was incredible. I love seeing all the different partnerships you all have. Is there anything specific in the Australia market that you all are focusing on in that space, or the global partnerships are really the ones you capitalize on?
I don't think it's an or. I think it's an and. So that's the beauty of being a global brand. We get to take those moments, drive culture on a global scale like we did with Minecraft. And I'd love to share it with you what's coming, but I think I might get a little in trouble for that one. The element of surprise there is really exciting. But then at the same time, shifting in to find those local moments that have a different level of relevance. I've found that particularly in the sports culture, right? And understanding AFL, NRL, and all the differences by state in Australia. That's been a massive learning curve for me, for sure.
Yeah.
And finding your role in that as well as part of culture. I think you're part of the conversation now with the Blues and the Maroons, meals, and like sharing that and creating a reason to come together around the game, offer a little bit of tension in households as well, like lean into the fun of it as well.
Yeah.
I think in the background, whilst we do the CRM, we're very close to the creative work as well.
Absolutely.
And we get to see the thought process and how much the brand is part of culture, but different cultural moments as well, whether it's the footy middle of the week that you've got with the kids and you have to pick them up drive-through because it's too late to cook and you just don't want to make a mess, or you want to have 10 friends round to watch the game. McDonald's is there.
Yeah.
It's there. It's just the brand
good moment.
people together. Yeah, feel good.
But you've got to find, to your point, you've got to find the way in that feels like it's the right role.
Yeah.
It fits with the brand. It makes sense. Otherwise, you lose. And I know the word authenticity gets so thrown around out there, but I'm still going to say that's my favorite word. It's almost like fan to fan. And I know we'll talk about kind of our brand approach, but it's less about knowing what's right. And sometimes you kind of look at it and go, ooh, that just feels so unauthentic, or it just feels so forced. It doesn't feel natural. And your job as a marketer is to make sure that you take things that are highly functional and make them emotional and extend that moment. And that's how you change the behavior that you want. But if you don't lead with the customer and do that and have that authenticity, it's
continuing to be authentic with them as well, so that we don't bring someone in through sports and then immediately talk to them about value and discounts. It's a shared fandom of sports, and continuing to have that conversation, or arts or movies or just general cultural moments.
But it's been exciting to see. I mean, I've been with McDonald's my entire career. And I think that's something that I didn't plan or expect. I think definitely, if I can throw the word millennial out there, as a millennial, that's probably not the norm in today's world. And I loved it. So seeing how we've built, this cultural relevance, this cultural credibility, like we've earned that space. And I think that's just unlocking new ways for our brand to show up that, if you asked me about that 10 years ago, I would say, no, McDonald's wouldn't do that. And I love it.
Well, that's a perfect pivot to, we're in Cannes. It's all about creativity. The fandom behind McDonald's is incredible. So when you think what you just mentioned is just like being, part culture, I think like you do a great job at McDonald's at finding the intersection of like culture and I would argue value and how that comes to life. So where have fans inspired you? When you look at all your loyal customers, what have you seen that you're like, that's really interesting? We can tap into that to drive deeper, further relationships.
Oh, there's a lot. Where to start? So I would say the first piece is that, like, we talk about data-driven marketing, and I grew up on the analytical side of the house, so my heart will always be there. But the biggest piece or the mistake that you can make is, data for the sake of data. And it's like the data helps you get insights. Insights are how you then drive relevance with consumers, right? And so we have a lot of conversations going on out here around, brand marketing versus performance marketing. I've never known a difference between those two. And we've got a panel later this week where we're going to be talking exactly about that. It's the nature of our industry. That is the expectation. Like, we drive the business through the customer, and we do that by leaning into culture and leaning into our fans. And so, we've brought our swagger back really by leaning into, let's own who we are. So instead of trying to be something that we're not or try to be something to everybody, it's what do our fans love about us? And how do we celebrate that in ways where they go, oh yeah, like I just moved out to Australia, and the question I've been asking, I've got a plethora of folks that I can talk to, right? From, friends to family, maybe a little less on the family side. And then for sure in the McDonald's ecosystem where I want to learn from them. I think history and context is so important. And I've been asking, what's the last piece of work that we've done that just you were so excited to be a part of?
What a great
McDonald's.
question. Yeah.
And my favorite answer came from the person that I respect the most and told me, the road trip. We have a road trip spot that we had done. And the reason they loved it is because they could feel themselves in that. They're like, I don't go on a road trip. And Australians, they drive a lot. Road trips are a big part of holidays and weekends with families. And they're just seeing those golden arches and knowing I can go there and count on that coffee that I need, or my kids are going to be quiet in the ute for a little bit. That's good. So when I hear someone that goes, I feel that, I know that, and you're leaning into it, that's what gets me excited.
I love that.
Road trips are like a place where traditions are passed on as well. As you sort of become a parent, and
I remember you've had a campaign.
Yeah,
we were there.
You've had your journey as a child in the back of the car, and you stop there and you get your meal or multiple meals for me, and then you pass it on to the kids.
No, honesty.
We love it. No, buy multiple meals. We're happy.
It's like it's a bit of a respite in like holidays can be stressful. It can be places to meet, but it's safe, it's familiar, it's consistent.
Absolutely.
But it's also a moment for your story continue for that weekend. I just love where it is in the brand. I don't think any other chain can own that. It would be impossible.
Yeah, the global just vast breadth of McDonald's is so incredible. But I love that every market has nuances. Digitas, obviously, we've been working with McDonald's in many markets. And obviously, it was so exciting to come down to Australia and that the team retained the business. We were thrilled. But it was so interesting just to hear the nuances within the market and how the different consumers really thought about their experience at McDonald's. And to your point, like the coffee, that's one really great example of nuances that you're like, okay, I need to reframe how I think about the importance of that in this market versus where you were before, which is really interesting.
Yeah, and I've been watching Australia for a while. So as I mentioned, I came from the US team, and we were quite behind back then on, where we wanted to go with digital and what does our MarTech look like and our customer data. And so I was really excited to be a part of the team that was at the ground building that. I had a fantastic team that I was a part of, led by a great leader, and we worked through that and stood that up. But I'm not afraid to admit that I called the Aussies and said, how did you stand up this process with your licensees, and what tools are you using to do this, and what are you learning along the way to help us as the largest market kind of get our digital foundation and ecosystem up and running. And now the U.S. is the largest, loyalty program, beating out a lot of those competitors that were quite ahead of us.
Yeah.
And at a global scale, we're 180 million members.
Incredible.
The fans are there, right?
The fans are there. Well, and, when you think about leveraging data, you mentioned that your background, it's near and dear to your heart. I've heard over the years, and I'm sure you've heard the same of, creatives not being excited about CRM and loyalty work. I strongly disagree. I would love to hear your point of view because I think it can be exciting and interesting and engaging. But I think there's like a different lens on it now than there used to be.
I'm also in your camp of I don't believe in that. And I think that the way you show up as a brand, especially the brand that we are, it's not just how we show up, but customers expect that of us. So if we're not consistent across our channels, if we don't have the right tone, the way we're talking, it's just such a huge missed opportunity. So I'm a big believer in 360 marketing. I know my team hears me say that a lot. But again, in Australia, we have 15.8 million loyalty members.
It's incredible.
We can reach 2/3 of the Australian adult population. That is wild.
And not many other brands could say that.
And I love our partners, but in the world of social, we're larger than any other social platform and the reach that exists there. So to not use that tool in your toolbox, we've spent all this time acquiring and building up, and we haven't just done that part. Our retention rates are off the charts too. So within the first year of loyalty, and this is in Australia alone, 74% retention rate. And then what's even more fascinating is when you get to the second year, the retention rate increases to 84. So they're feeling the benefits of being a member through tangible and intangible ways. And that's exciting.
And you're using a ton of data to help personalize a lot of those comms so that we are bringing them back.
I know it's basic, but life cycle alone, right? So how our team, and we have a phenomenal team out there. Ellie's led the charge. Toby before that. They're a great bunch. They have been pioneers in this space. And so they've built out this full end-to-end life cycle program in partnership with Digitas, with Analec, right? We have our teams that have come together in such impressive ways to say, okay, no detail is too small. From that first touch point to drive engagement, because we know that once they redeem that first transaction, there's such an increase in retention because they're feeling that tangible reward too. All right, we're starting to see some behaviors that feel like churn. How do we start to re-engage, make sure we don't lose those customers? And it could be, even in our campaigns. And so the fun thing that Davey was mentioning earlier is while we're focused on, life cycle and the programs and the digital experience, and we infuse data and all of that, we actually take a step back and say, how can digital and data play a bigger strategic role in our plans? And so when we do that, we have the opportunity, for example, even when we're briefing ideas of how do we leverage first-party data to get all the right insights. And if we're going to be activating with 15.8 million customers that we know what we know. Let's apply it.
Use what you have.
Absolutely. And so we've done that. So that's helped to fuel things like creative platforms and ways in. That helps inform a strategic role of channel. It helps inform what's the balance between mass messaging and personalization. And I think when people hear personalization, they tend to go into, these super micro segmented or one-to-one. And you can send a mass message. Let's take Minecraft, for example, but the way you talk about Minecraft could be different to different segments.
Absolutely.
And that's where Davey and his team come in partnership with us of, what is that audience strategy? And how do we make sure across our paid and owned media, we're being strategic? There's going to be overlap. What does that look like? So it is data for insights and it's data for activation. And if you don't tap into that, I mean, that's just
missing the boat.
I don't know how you continue to be a modern marketer in today's age. Customers expect it and you have to get it right.
And one thing we spoke about briefly last night was I've come from an era where sometimes you've seen an insight being derived from one data point. And one of the things that we're insisting on, where we democratize insight across the whole agency village, but we want to find tension in data points as well, so that we can understand that whilst this might be true, this is also true, and find the actual genuine tension in there. And that's something that I think we're starting to get better and better at, and we'll have a real focus on that over the next year as well.
Absolutely.
How we democratize it, but also how we challenge it, like challenge the data and really understand why, and use it as a place to jump off creatively and really push us forward.
Well, and one thing I really enjoyed about with Davey's team, Simon, who heads up creative, he's a fantastic partner, especially to more of a CRM and loyalty strategist, when there's so much focus on understanding the data and insights. And then how do we collect more data on these customers for every touch point? So what I loved is being able to show the progression of all these creative ideas were really grounded in driving better and deeper relationships, driving more loyalty. And so I think that was a big, turning point, being able to showcase that creative that can also be engaging, exciting, fun. Also is very purposeful.
That came from the McDonald's team. So Ellie gave us that challenge. She said,
I love it.
How is this idea a smart use of customer data or making us smarter? And that was always the sort of guardrails for it. And it's a really good starting point, because it should make us smarter or be a really smart use of what we've learned from you. So it's valuable for customers to continue to let us know what they're doing, give us feedback, tell us what they like, what they don't like, and for us to react to that as well. And I think that's something that's you're starting to see the success in that. They loved Minecraft. And I think we
all did.
Incredible open rates on that, because we knew the people who liked it. We really liked it. And then we went back to them and they responded really well.
Extremely well. Don't undersell that. That was
incredible campaign.
Very much so. And it's interesting that you say that, because we're using it in so many different ways across the campaigns. So that's just another example. But the other piece is another area that maybe isn't as sexy or doesn't get as much limelight as it should, is test and learn. So, if you don't leverage that, and it could be within, how we go to market for a specific campaign like Minecraft. It could be for the right propensity offers that we want to, serve customers, and it could be life cycle, but it also could be constructs for other areas of the business, like value or new product. There's so much that you
always test.
Absolutely. But I think we've all grown up in an age where testing looked, you have an advertised sales test and you put it out in a trial market, and that will not go away, right? There's always going to be a role and a purpose, but in spaces where you can take a little more risk and get a little bit more agile, I mean, what a tool to have as a marketing team to make our business even stronger.
1,000%. 1,000%. All right, we have to wrap up pretty soon. So I have one more question before the final question. What is, looking ahead, you've been down now for 6 months. What's your biggest opportunity? What are you seeing that you're just super excited about going into the back half of the year?
I think our loyalty program is what excites me. And I'm going to give you like a little bit of a cheeky grin because I can't say too much about it. But, we started off with food-led rewards, as we should, right? That is your foundation of your loyalty program. We've done a fantastic job with that. And consumers are looking, especially our biggest fans, right? The loyalty members, they're looking for new ways that they want to engage with us. So things of like how do we give them, double points for the products they love if they need to re-engage? How do we look for, partnerships that maybe start to show up? So we'll play around with that a little bit, but really driving it from how do we build on top of these food-led moments that we've created with our program to experiences for our biggest fans. So that's something we're excited. And it won't be just in the next 6 months. I think that'll be something that, over the next 18 to 24 months, we'll see iterations of exciting news there.
Incredible.
What's amazing about the loyalty program at McDonald's is you made people fall in love with the loyalty program itself by just getting the basics right. Because we see loyalty programs across the world and brands default into loyalty programs where they go, we just want to know more about customers, and just trying to do everything to everyone. And McDonald's went, people buy food from us. We're going to allow them to accumulate points so they can get more food for free, because that creates a moment of joy. So you got that foundational layer right, and people have bought into it, but consumers and fans always want a little bit more. And we've got permission now to do that.
Exactly.
So it's not just about throwing everything at them, throwing the kitchen sink through loyalty programs. It's about the right things and getting the basics right. And that's one thing that McDonald's has just nailed.
Well, it's funny. There's been a lot of conversation. We actually just did some research with Fetch Rewards that we're about to launch. And one of the big topics was, if it's a discount or if there's some sort of reward without meaning, then it is just a discount, right? So when you think about the rewards, of course, you're going to have some food-led rewards, but now consumers from an experiential perspective are leaning in. And so I think you don't want it to come off as just a discount. You want to make it worth it. And you want to make sure that it's actually doing what you want it to do, which is bringing them back again.
Absolutely. And retention is the number one KPI at the end of the day, because what consumers say they're going to do and what they actually do, there's always a bit of a gap there. But I'm with you, because I think the first piece was our customers wanted loyalty. And we hadn't gone there, and then we did. And so we delivered on this massive opportunity that was very customer-led. And now they've experienced these loyalty programs across, all different industries. We all do, right? We have our favorite things. And there's nothing more frustrating when you can't use your points, or there's blackout periods or different. So we're just sitting there going, how do we make sure that we keep them excited, we keep them coming back, we show up in expected and unexpected ways and redefine that experience. But at the end of the day, if you're leading with the customer, that's how you drive sustainable growth of the business. Yep, exactly.
All right. Last question. What brand or app can you not live without right now, Mary?
I'm going to have to say a few.
Okay.
So I know we just talked about this, recently moved out to Australia. So I would say, first of all, let me go with one on the opposite side. I miss my Target app. Target is not the same in Australia. Yes, it is. Everyone thinks Amazon is a huge difference, and I found Amazon has been fantastically
Similar?
same. Yeah, fantastic.
But not Target.
Target, no, it's very different. I think maybe Kmart might be close.
They're similar.
They're similar.
Yeah.
But I miss my one-stop shop at Target, so I'm definitely one of those. And then this is going to sound so basic and functional, but I love the Service New South Wales app, which is a government app, and they've just done my license is in there if I need any alerts that are relevant to me and where I live. So as someone who's trying to integrate and learn Aussie life, that's been fantastic. And then the most obvious is WhatsApp. I couldn't live without WhatsApp. That's how I get to talk to the people that I love, that I can't be with, every moment of the day. So
I love that.
yeah.
All right, Davey. Over to you.
Mine is similar, but the one that I couldn't live without is iMessage, because I hate emails. I could definitely.
You hate people.
I hate
Sorry,
emails.
iMessage?
I hate emails and I hate Teams. And it literally says on my Teams, I'm really sorry, I'm probably not going to get back to you through this. But
Only
no
the
content. But text messages, I absolutely will. And because my son, he's got to that age now where he's got his phone, and my middle daughter as well, she's got her phone, and we communicate via GIFs.
Oh, I love that.
I find that. And then it's a brand that I can't live without at the moment is Subi in Australia.
Okay.
Oh, you have something about that.
What they've done recently is they've got back to their roots, and they're really back into culture, and it's a bit where culture and fashion come together again. Their CRM program is ridiculous, and a cause of a lot of my financial reporting problems.
They're doing a great job.
They are doing such a good job.
Great lifetime value out of Dave.
Yeah, great lifetime value.
You're ruining the curve.
Yeah, very few return products as well, which is good. But again, just a brand who's really good, knows their audience, created products around their audience, and just embracing who they are, like genuine, authentic. This is who we are. This is who our customers are, leaning into it. And I just love those guys a lot. So a great Australian brand that's now scaling the world. I think it's big in New York. And
wow. All right.
It's going really well.
Amazing. Well, thank you both for joining us today. Spilling the Loyalty in the most beautiful place. We are thankful to our friends at Spotify. And for our listeners, make sure you subscribe and follow. Let us know if you have any topics you'd love to hear about Spilling the Loyalty.